Want to sharpen your game? Join the DFM Coaching Patreon for exclusive technique breakdowns and mindset training. Now, let's get started.
Welcome to Tapped In. My name is David Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching, and today we're going to be discussing the one-trick pony fallacy. So this weekend, they held the MMA bout between Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano. And first off, my thoughts. I knew that this was not going to go in Gina's favor simply because of the style. Like, if Gina was able to keep everything standing, then things would look a little different. Gina wasn't an exceptional striker, and she was less than exceptional on the ground. So if this match went to the ground at all, it was going to be an armbar. It was going to be a submission win. Additionally, when you take off 17 years from competing, and there was a stretch of that where you were completely out of shape, and this fight kind of brought you back. Like, I love that story for her. The fact that Ronda's approach or fight actually got her to be back in the gym, watching what she was eating, losing. Like, I think she lost over 100 pounds. She was close to being diabetic, or she was pre-diabetic at the time. So it put her in a better position, potentially not just physically, but maybe even mentally, that you have a goal in mind, and now that forces you to have to be more specific and mindful of the decisions you make throughout the day. There's a huge benefit in that. And for her, I love that. The fact that it pulled her out of whatever funk or depression or just bad lifestyle decisions she was making for herself. And it allowed her to, one, get another payday and just have positive habits in place that forced her to get prepared for this fight. So in that sense, beautiful, loved it. I also love that there was two women headlining a fight. But if you were a casual, which Netflix brought out a lot of casuals, you don't know what either one of these ladies does. You just don't. And these ladies, Ronda, I don't think had fought in 10 years, and Gina hadn't fought in 17. Like, you didn't watch their highlights. You didn't watch them come up. You didn't watch to see what they were known for, what they did. So you had no idea. You fell into the trap of the hype. And it was just going to be this mega bout. And the rest of us who actually watched these two women kind of knew where it was going to go. I didn't think it was going to be 17 seconds, but I knew that it was not going to go well for Gina, and that the likelihood was that it would be a armbar win at some point. What I thought was that maybe the defensive aspect would force Ronda to have to maybe pull out a couple of more traps in order to get it. I didn't anticipate 17 seconds worth. But hey, when you're an Olympic level judoka and you've been doing this specialty, very niche, and niche isn't the right word, but what I'm trying to go for is very specific end result. And you learn all the ways to get there. So there was no doubt that the minute she got into a grappling sequence, she was going to start going for it. She's an aggressive fighter. She doesn't sit in a position and hold and wait and try to figure out what you're going to do. No, she has a game plan, and she's going to force you into making decisions that will be better for her outcome. So immediately after the fight, there was all this stuff about fixed and choreographed and whatever. There was even a video of Ronda practicing a takedown into an armbar sequence. And they were saying, see, this is all predetermined. The fight takedown, which was a double, if I remember correctly, into the mount, into the armbar, was not the tape sequence from the drill that they were doing, which was I believe an inside trip, some kind of like almost a Granby roll into Keisagatami, ending in a variation of an armbar. Those two drills aren't even the same thing. They're not the same positions. They're not the same takedown. They're not even the same end result. So it showed that we had so many casuals watching this fight and commenting on it, which drove the rest of us nuts. With that being said, the other thing that I was hearing was, oh, she's a one-trick pony, which I've heard for a really long time. As someone who does jiu-jitsu and has done it for 15 years and has been a black belt in June, it'll be my 5th year. I specialize in specific things. I have a pretty robust game when it comes to certain aspects, but I am almost specific in Kimuras and armbars. They are the most likely submissions that I'm going to hit on people. They're the most likely entrances that I'm used in order to hit like specific submissions. And they're so interrelated that I find them all over the place. I am specialized in Kimuras. I love a good Kimura. And then all the off branches based on that Kimura. You could probably call me a one-trick pony in that sense. Because if I was competing, that would be my focus. That'd be the thing that I would be doing. I wouldn't be trying to, I'm trying to hit this Ezekiel from this position. I have threats, don't get me wrong. But my A game is almost always exclusive to Kimuras, Kimura grips, omoplatas based on the Kimura grips, and arm bars based on the Kimura grips. They're just in there. So when you are a high-level judoka who's had to play in a sport that doesn't allow you to sit too long in the ground game without being stood up, you're going to find ways to aggressively finish bouts very quickly. It is just part of the nature of the rule set that you're in. I can throw you in judo and end the bout if you land flat. But also athletes are really good at kind of getting that partial landing or trying to scoop out or land on their side versus their back. And the ground game is going to then flourish. It's going to be the thing that we're going to have to now chase. Some athletes will kind of just they'll get on top and they won't put too much effort into it because they're worried about maybe using their cardio too much. And they get stood back up and they have to play that game again. They don't give you a whole lot of time in judo. Ronda developed a style that said, the minute I land, because we're landing and because most of the throws tend to have a grip on the arm, sleeve, elbow, genuinely or more often, I'm going to find an armbar. Because when they're falling, the arm's extended, or maybe they try to frame once they fall, or they try to post on something once they fall, so the arm bars are there. So she developed a style that allowed her to play that to her liking and finish bouts really quickly. If I don't remember what the number is, I think she has like 8 or 9 armbar finishes in the first minute in MMA. And that's strictly or directly related to the fact that judo does not let you to work for a long time. Jiu-jitsu, on the other hand, we go to the ground, we got all day. And then if it's MMA, I got the entire round. So we don't have the same need to finish right away. She did, so she developed that style. Additionally, this idea that we're going to have, that it's a one-trick pony as if it's a disrespect, or that she doesn't have any other threats, or doesn't have any other attacks. The art in jiu-jitsu and judo and grappling, when you get specialized, is the fact that you have systems in place that allow you to get to the things that you want. You have systems in place that it's almost like when you're back in the day, before we had roads, you had grooves in the land because that's where animals walked, preferably, and where humans had trails and they also walked. And then we made roads and so on and so on. That is in essence, what happens when you're a specialized individual. You start to have an end goal in mind. In this case, the armbar for me, Kimura grips / armbar / omoplatas. And that allows me, because I know the most common routes for people when I want to get them to that position, that I now start following those routes. And I know the route really well. I understand what we're doing. These aren't tricks. Trick means I fooled you. A trick means that you were deceived and that your job is now to, because you see where we're going to go, that you're now going to have an answer for it. It's the same way that Ronda has the armbar, Hodger Gracie had the cross collar choke. These aren't tricks. These are well-worn paths that we understand on a level that most human beings will not. I will never understand the armbar on her level. I will never understand the cross collar choke on Hodger's level. I don't have the time. But I know my own game so well that I understand where people are going to go, what are the most common responses, how they're going to defend, it is so ingrained in me that I don't need to think about it. So imagine being at the highest level, a judoka, Olympic level. You've seen it all. Not just my city, my gym, my county, my state, my country. You have traveled the world and seen every potential response to an armbar from every potential position. You have that ingrained in your head over decades of training. So when I get to that position and we might be in a weird, odd spot where you think you're safe, I have already formulated what we're doing before you realized it. If you watch back to the Ronda fight, she takes a takedown. Gina has an overhook over Ronda's left arm. They get to the mat. She keeps the hook, the overhook. Ronda passes into mount. She has her head locked up in a headlock. She uses her left hand to bring the arm from around the body to between their chests. And she hooks that arm that was a overhook. She doesn't release it. She holds it in place the entire time because she's going to use it later. She still has her head locked up, and most people, they would post both hands on the ground, one hand on the ground, and then use their other hand to kind of either punch or get the neck free. She did not do that. She held with her left arm. She punched, I think, to the body, and Gina finally let go. And then she punched her to the head a few times. Still has the arm trapped. It's still hooked. When you normally just posture up and start landing punches, it's still hooked. She set this up from the moment she went into mount. And then she starts to circle around, goes over the head, leans back, and finishes the bout. That's what I mean by it doesn't matter what position we land in. I have such a deep understanding of the positions, your limbs, my limbs, gravity, positional, that I understand what I need to do right away. And by the time you're aware what's happening, you're 3 moves behind. You've already fucked up. The match is won, and you're not even aware of it. So the match was done seconds earlier, and we're in a 17-second total bout. So then she took it and went home with it. So there's this weird... So on top of that, when we have this idea that my opponent, some people will argue, well, what happens if your opponent knows what you're doing? I'm all for it. Please watch the videos. You could study everything you want to study about my game. You don't know the defense enough to help yourself other than just not be in the position, which is what was Ronda's issue when she was a competitor. In MMA, when they did not lock up and they were so much better at her at striking, that's where she lost the 2 fights she had. But anytime I put my hands on you and she had hands and weight on you, it was a completely different story. Because at that stage, a couple of things happen. Like I mentioned, I know every possible response that you're going to have. It's stored in my CPU, and my CPU is running on autopilot because it is so used to everything that you could potentially do. It doesn't have to think. I'm not setting up, oh, I need to put my hand here, and then I need to hook here. And nope. I am just doing it because I have seen this movie 1,000 times. So what happens is the other person is no longer being themselves. There's times when I roll with people and I'll lock up the hand and just getting a wrist grip on people. Knowing the position, they know that a Kimura is coming or the 2-on-1. And they'll start immediately backtracking and pulling away. They do not want to feel my hands on their wrist. So then it becomes an objective of they are no longer imposing themselves. And now they are, I don't want to say deathly afraid, but they are in defensive mode and they are trying to disengage. They don't want to be there. There's a mental aspect that happens psychological aspect happens when someone puts their hands on you and you know it's the last thing you want them to do. The same happens from stand-up. The same way Mike Tyson would step into the ring and people were deathly afraid. They were scared. They did not want to be in punching range. They didn't really even want to be in the ring. That same thing where he's in front of you and you're like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do with this shit? Same happens when someone grabs you a certain way and you're just like, I don't want to be here. The fact that they touched me is a red alert and you have to respond right away. But you're not responding in a tactical or responsible or calm way. You're so worried about what's happening. So there's that psychological edge. The minute the match even slightly goes into a certain position. And I remember I used to roll with certain people that were really specialized in certain things. Right now, my kryptonite is Carlos at 5 Peaks. He has this way of tying up my inside leg when I'm trying to pass. And the minute he does it, I panic a little. Not that I want to run, but I know it's not good. And I got to figure it out quick or it's going to turn bad. And when it turns bad, it gets even worse. And then he reverses the position and he drops down pressure and weight, and it's just miserable for him. There's a psychological aspect that happens to these things. When you know it's coming, you know exactly where it's going to go, but you just don't have enough resources to tell you what's the most effective response. Because it doesn't matter. Like someone made a comment, oh, the armbar is the most fundamentalist aspect or technique. And it showed me everything I needed to know about the person that they just didn't, and they trained. They just didn't know depth of training. They didn't know the depth of an opponent. Like, I'm a black belt. You should say I should be able to handle most people. There are black belts that make me feel like a white belt. A month and a half ago, a guy just tuned me up. And on the face level, surface level, I should be able to do things. I should be able to prevent the pass. I should be able to, like all fundamental shit. I should be able to bridge. None of it worked. They had a certain sense that they just shut everything down and I couldn't do anything. And I was just sitting there helpless. Now, if you have not been helpless at a high level, and like maybe you've been doing something for 5, 10, 15 years, and someone else makes you feel helpless, maybe you don't understand the concept of this fight and the fact that Ronda is at an Olympic level and Gina Carano was not. And that if I rolled with Ronda, she would be picking arm bars whenever she wanted. I understand that. There's just a certain level to the game that's different than everyone else's. And what creates these issues is that the attacker understands the dilemmas. People will say, oh, it's a one-trick pony. It's the armbar. That's the end result. It's like saying it's a KO. It's it's home. And the thing that I've always tried to tell people is the magic isn't in the fact that I got home or that I'm home being the same. Like, let's say and I equate this always to like detours on the road. You're trying to get home from work. Your job is to get home. Doesn't matter if you get home with the fastest route or the other route. And if there's a detour, then you have to understand what you're going to do in order to get around the detour to get home. Because there is no going in anywhere else. My home is where, and for her case, it's the armbar. So she has to know every possible detour, exit for the freeway, side street, side alley, every potential response from a athlete trying to defend that armbar. Her job is to know every potential one so that she can get around it. And that's where the magic is. The fact that you finish something the same way to the layman isn't a curse or isn't a bad thing. It's all the nuance. And we're in mount, we're in, I have the back, we're in S mount, we're in this weird, funky mid transition. They took me down and I reversed it. And now I'm in an armbar. It's all of that. That's where the magic happens. Instead of understanding the depth of knowledge that is required to pull this off when everyone knows where my home is, that's the magic. And that's the part that I think laymen's and casuals aren't understanding. You're just not getting it. So I want athletes or my students to have specialties. I don't want them to I keep hitting this. And no, keep hitting it. Now start hitting it from other positions. Now put yourself in a deficit and see, where does it appear? Where can you funnel people into positions that they don't like so that the armbar or the crucifix or the back take or the Kimura, wrist lock, whatever the position is that you want to be a specialized individual in, where does it appear? Does it appear in half guard? Take it. Funnel them into half guard. And then in a couple of weeks, I want you to start funneling them into mount. A couple of weeks after that, I want you to start funneling them into the back. Can you hit the position or the submission from the back? How do you transition from the back to the position that you actually want? And that's where this magic happens. Sometimes people feel like, oh no, I don't want to keep hitting the same thing. Understood. I don't want you to slow down your growth because you're doing only A game shit that you know is going to work. The depth of, you're going to get to a point where you understand your game really well. I understand mounted arm bars really well. Now, the goal then becomes, can I get the arm bar off the back? So then you make that your goal. Can I get the arm bar from bottom half? And then that's where you start seeing people develop the Choi bar. All right, so let me see. What happens if I'm in butterfly? How do I how do I funnel the position in butterfly to get to a position that I really want where the arm bar is exposed? Maybe I expose it by going Kimura grip first. And then once I get the Kimura grip, and I can swing the leg over, and now we could attack the arm bar, or we could attack it from this. And that's where the webbing starts to open up and be created, where you're now developing a system that's wider and has a wider net. But the end route to the layman looks like the same shit. I don't care. I want you to have a wide net, but catch the same fish if that's what you want. It's nothing wrong with that. So I try to push people to become specialists in something. We're all going to be specialists in something. I have a student who's great with pressure, has a great clock choke. I have another student who's great with anaconda choke. I have another student who is great with a loop choke. These aren't chokes that I shared with them. They aren't chokes that I do. And they aren't like, if I have to show them, I would rather them show the techniques because they know it better than I do. But the specialty is a beautiful aspect, because then, like, let's say, how often are you going to find a loop choke? Probably not as often as maybe an armbar, but it's the web of connecting tissue and techniques that it creates off of it. If I can genuinely get the loop choke, then it's a submission. If I can get the loop choke and you try to pull away, then it's me reversing the position, maybe getting to mount, maybe getting to whatever. Maybe I start following it up from top of half just to prevent you from preventing me to advance. So it becomes a wider net, even though it looks like to the outsider, it's just a loop choke. So become a specialist. The more specialized you are in a technique with interconnecting techniques into it and out of it, the more you control where things move. The less chaos there is because you understand the interconnecting tissue between the positions. Yes, I might go Kimura from bottom half. Is it high percentage for me? No, not at all. But if they're low, I can swing the leg over and attack the armbar. If they start to go high, I could hip bump. And then now we're in the top of half with the Kimura grip. I could do a straight arm lock. I could pass with the Kimura grip and start going north-south Kimura. I can go T Kimura. There's a host of things I can do from it, all these different positions. But you don't get there unless you're a specialized athlete in a given aspect of the game. There is nothing wrong with that. Don't let anyone kind of push you away from it. Just don't allow it to slow or shrink down your progress. If all I'm doing is a year's worth of mounted armbar and I'm just doing it because I want the win, I'm doing myself a disservice. If I'm doing it because I'm doing it to high level people and I'm still figuring out the details, it's a different thing. I'm hoping this makes some sense. If not, or you have questions on jiu-jitsu, please hit me up, dfm.2099 on Instagram and Threads. I also have a Patreon page. I am putting techniques up there every week. I'm putting up specific blogs, breakdowns, like I had a breakdown of Ronda Rousey's that I just put up there. We have direct coaching if you're interested in that. I'm working with a gentleman now that I'm really having a lot of fun with. He just competed, and I'll be doing his competition round soon. Please hit me up. If you have any questions, let me know. Until next time, thank you so much.